What the fuck am I looking at? What the hell is this shizen mess? What Dummkopf freaking Arschloch made this panzer? Did they just look at the Excelsior in Britain and be like, yeah, hold my Wiener Schnitzels and my drink and I'll make it worse? Oh god, this tank is ugly. This tank is so ugly. It's ugly. When I close my eyes and I see who you truly are, and that is ugly. You are so ugly. It does. It looks like it. It looks. You know what it looks like, audience? If they wanted to take an Abram or an Abram's head and then take that off and put it on a box with the back part box wheels and put treads on it. This is like if Germany looked at the T-28 Proto and this is their version. It's like, no! 9! This 999 Steifen. Oh, God. Oh, what have they done to my country? I was looking forward to October and then they give me this piece of Scheißen. Fucking Scheiße. Oh. So, yeah, we're taking a look at this piece of gem today, and you can already tell I'm not too thrilled about it. So, you're probably wondering, well, Fury, is this, your first question is, since it has the name, the Konens Jagdpanzer, is it exactly should it play out the same way as the Cannon Jagdpanzer family, which there are two of them in this game. I think there's one called the Slayer's a Soviet Striker, and the other one is the Cannon Jagdpanzer with either the 90 mil or the 105. So, to be fair, should this tank be classified in their class? Even though one has a 9.0 and the other one has like a freaking 10.5. And it's weird because I want to say yes, but no at the same time. And we'll get to that little fun, interesting bit. But first and foremost, despite its look, we have to talk about one of the things as well. Because this is the ultimate season pass tank. You all pretty much have this now. You all told me to please help you talk about this tank. Please tell me how to play this tank. And I've never heard of this tank until now. I mean, I have been gone from World of Tank reviews for a bit because I've been struggling with my own health and everything else. Mental health and all that, not physical health. So my body's fine, just my mind. Sorry. I'm getting way off topic. You want to know the tank more than me. So let's talk about the skin. Now, first and foremost, I will say this. Thankfully, in the Ultimate Season Pass, we finally get the skins of these tanks. And I ask why Wargaming we don't see this often. We see so many Ultimate tanks, but we don't get like unique skins for them right off the bat. Like, come on, Wargaming. You have like 6 tanks already that don't have like permanent skins on them, which is good because then you don't have to worry about spending your silver, spending that. You just buy the tank with it. Only when the season passes thing. You got like how many days? Let me take a look real quick on the Ultimate Season, the season pass thing. Yeah, you got 51 days after this video. Might be a little bit less than that when this video comes out. So, that being said, let's rip this tank apart and tell you why I have so much frustration with it and why it fits in the category as a Cognac Panzer and it's not at the same time. So, first things first, for anyone who's new, I always talk about the armaments. So let's get right to it. Now, this is a difficult story to tell. Now, obviously, for those who are new, I'm not going to rip the whole pirate tank apart. We're going to be talking about the major problems with this tank. As you can already tell, there's nothing on this side.
Das ist der schlimmste Verrat von allen!
Nothing to protect it at all. So any type of gun can damage modules easily on the side and everything else. High explosive, if it penetrates through the tracks, through that, will pen through modules. And that's going to be a huge problem when you lose a lot of modules for a tank, because that's the main game. You don't want to lose as much as that quick. The other thing I want to talk about is this. The 250 millimeter armor part. I have a problem with this armaments because even though the underbelly is angled by a little bit, 20 degrees, okay, not bad. 20 degrees, a little angle, perfect, not bad at all. However, though, the head turret is not as angled as you think, and even though it says red on this side, but if you turn it slightly, it's a thin piece of metal. Now, granted, if you look at the underbelly, if I can get the... let me turn it the other way, sorry. Now, if you look at the underbelly's angle, you could see that there is a gash of armor, meaning that it has like a good millimeters thickness of that 250 millimeters. However, the head turret, if you turn it slightly, like I said, you got to get rid of that, is thin. So you're probably asking yourself, what is the big deal, Fury? It's 250. That's not too bad. Um, you do realize this is a tier 10, right? I mean, most tier 10s, if lots, pen nearly up to 260. So keep this in mind. Hang on, let me show you some stuff. Here's an example. The mouse. The mouse has like nearly 246. Yes, that's less pen. But if it fires premium, it pens right through that like nothing. So you probably say, okay, certain tanks with certain mouse, like the mouse and stuff, won't easily pen. However, if you go up against an E100, this will pen you like non-stop because if it has the 15 centimeter cannon, then it's going to pen you like crazy. See, the problem is most tier 10s are going to pen. Here, let me show you another one. Jagdpanzer E100. Any of these TDs will fuck you up. So you see the problem here, audience? Armor is like okay to certain small caliber guns. Like we're talking like probably a little bit below 12, 12 length centimeter guns. But anything bigger, which howitzers, nameless can fuck this tank up. Like the E100 nameless, any of the things, anything above 269 will pen you non-stop. And that's a huge problem when you have a tank like that can't really like we'll get to that in a minute, but like can't take a hit or anything. So you're probably gonna say, well, Fear, there's other tanks that don't take a hit. We'll get to that in a second too, but let's just say this. Armor on the tank is only good against lower tiers, but if it goes against its own tier, it's going to get fucked up by a lot of tanks. And here, let me show you more about this, how bad this armor is. Let's look at the German tech tree for just a quick second of the tier 10s. See, here's the Sturm Tiger. Its regular pending of its gun is 280. That can overpend it. Let's just go through it real quick. That could definitely overpend it, 279. And then we're looking at standard rounds, mind you, people. And look at this. This one's like the shorter barrel. I think this is shorter barrel. Nope, long barrel I put on it. Look at that, 276. That can overpend it. That could definitely overpend it, 299. That one can't pen it without premium, but the premium is 334. That is ridiculous. But then you got this tank that is slightly close to penning it. You get what I'm saying? Let's go a little further. This is just a German tech tree. The mouse, 246. This is the only one that barely cannot pen it. But if you load premium, like I said, minus the little gun, I don't know what, it's 311. That could pen it. Same thing with this. Standard rounds can't pen it easily, but 334 of premium round sure fucking can. Let's look at the Leopard. Oh, look at that. It's a medium light armor tank, and it has 268, and it can outspot you. That could pen you definitely. This could definitely pen you definitely. And even though the light tank can't pen you, its premium can, and that's a huge, huge problem with this tank. Because if your turret is weaker than your whole armor of the underbelly is, that's a huge issue when you have to shoot at people. And sometimes this armor works. Like sometimes I've noticed this thing is baffling to me for those. Because sometimes the armor actually works sometimes. But then there's a lot of times it fucking don't.
Suchen Sie nicht! Ich will Federn sehen! Sofort!
If you angle it, maybe, if they shot you on the crosshair, yes. But if you're facing forward like your gun is going to 90% of the time, it's going to pen. But some certain APs can't, which is a good thing. A lot of APs can. But if it's a TD with a good enough pen AP, yeah, that can pen right through that armor like nothing. So keep that in mind if you're exposing this tank. Do me a favor, it's like usually the best armor is like getting no hit at all, which is going to be difficult when we talk about. So obviously the tracks and everything, it's you can pen right through the tracks. If it's angles, if it's tracks exposed, you can shoot through the tracks to, I'll show you real quick. So you could shoot through these tracks here to shoot through the green millimeter armor behind it, and you could pen right through that with AP if it's angled weird, because a lot of times people I've seen angle the tank to try to bounce off that frontal armor better, but when they angle, they expose the side tracks, which is really dumb. Also, side scraping on this tank is not that 100% good. Yeah, it's a square box, but it's like the Americans design. It's like it's very, very hard to side scrape with this too. I've tried it twice and it didn't work out well. Also, another thing too, you want to keep this tank as flat as ever, meaning you do not want to be in a downwards hill at all with this tank's armor. So if you're like in the hill and you're like exposing this much, so let's just look at appearance real quick. If you're looking at the tank and it's exposing that much armor above when it's on a slight hill downwards, yeah, gravity's going to be a bitch, because you could drop a shell right into the top turret, because there is nothing on that top turret. So my advice, if you play this tank already, which you probably have, sit in the back. Try your best not to expose too much. I know you can't expose the strongest part, which is your underbelly, but your top part, you got to poke out a lot of times. Just play like a Grill 15 kind of play style. As much as it really sucks how much armor it has, it's kind of like that play style, because it just... Ugh. So, that being said, that's the armaments for now. Let's just go to the loadout and talk about the other thing. Its gun. Now, this is a 12 centimeter length 60. This is basically the beginning era of kind of like Leopards and kind of like those type of guns. You know, the big, caliber guns of what the heavy tanks use, or the medium tanks, as you want to call it, for Germany's Leopards and stuff like that, or certain tank destroyers of the Cold War era. However, though, it's got some problems. So, firing rate is 7.7. Now, with everything in it, I got it down to like 6 point something. I don't have it on like the thing, but it's around that ballpark with all the combat rigs, good commander, and everything else. So this thing reloads really fast, but the damage doesn't feel great when we get to that in a minute for a tier 10. Yes, fast reloading, good. But it suffers another problem. Accuracy at 100 meters is 0.28. I don't know how to feel about that, because sometimes it doesn't work out that well, because this thing has horrible, horrible vertical stabilizers. This thing sucks at aiming things when you're moving your turret. Defeating, again, another purpose that why it has to be a sniper only tank. Because, again, when I said about the armor to stay as far back, you got also vertical stabilizers that is all over the place if you try to go back and forth with your tank trying to dodge bullets and stuff. Or not bullets, shells. Sorry. But it's like, that's the problem too, because that's one of the equipment pieces you need to fix it, right? And the crew, we'll get to that in a second when I talk about it. I'll talk about it in main game. And then you got like damage is pretty much 400. I usually roll 350, 360, 370 as an average roll when I hit something. That is not a lot for a tier 10. Yes, it reloads really fast. I mean, 6 point something for reloading, that's pretty damn fast. I will say that that's a good thing. But for a tier 10 versus people that do like 750 to like 400 to 500 a hit, I mean, granted, yeah, that's another reason why you snipe. But here's the reason why I think it should be only be a sniper, as always, because even though some people say it has armaments, and believe me, there are sometimes I said F it and just go on berserk and succeeded.
Mein Herz in Flammen will dich lieben und verdammen. Dein Atem kalt, so jung und doch so alt.
Yeah, like I sometimes do that and it can work. So penetration is 265. Again, that's not bad, but you can pen through your own tank's face. I'm not joking. You can actually pen your own tank's face. So auto locking it would probably not a good idea to shoot your own tank because it's going to hit anywhere in the whole armor, and that's going to be the strongest part of the tank sometimes, depending on what caliber gun. But if you aim for the face cheeks with that type of gun, you could pen your own self, which I've done that many times with this tank, and it baffles me. But penetration at 500 meters, which is sniping, mind you, is 252. So distance, like I said again, is a key role for this tank to be in, even though 252 is par good. It's actually good with it's actually not bad. You see where it comes into play, where it plays mostly as a sniper only kind of classification heavy tank. So even though it's a TD, it still gets classified as a heavy, even though it does one thing different than a heavy. So that being said, so ammo type, you got AP, heat, and high explosives, which is again good choice of ammunition. I mean, I wouldn't prepare heat for a sniper tank thing, but what it is, what it is. And ammo capacity 45, which is not a lot of ammunition if you really think about it. You do like 370 average damage or max 400, and you only got 45 shells. That's not a lot of ammunition if you really think about it. If you had be the only one shooting the entire team, if you are. I'm not saying I recommend being the only one left alive, but there are some points where you're by yourself and you're doing really good, and then you're like, I'm out of ammo. Hans, do we have the ammo? No. Oh, oh, it's just dumb. So, that being said, we gotta talk about the other things that's also in this. Like, obviously, this is a turret rotation. This is not a lock-in turret. So, this is exactly like the Excalibur tank that you see in World Tanks. This is a Tier 6 Premium British. Or pretty much like you see any other box-like tank with a locked turret. So, this thing goes like only, like not 360, but like just side to side kind of looking. So it's got that capability, which is nice because if a light tank tries to flank you, that's a good capability. So you got viewing range, which is what I fixed it as because we'll talk about that in the thing. The viewing range sucks in the beginning. I had to fix it. In the max, that is the max you're seeing right there. That is 510.75. That as far as my physical freaking Panzer's fat ass could see that far. Versus turret rotation is 22.15. Turret rotation is not bad. I think it's okay. It's fair. But the hit points is 1,900, which again, why I say this is a sniper only tank because you don't have a lot of hit points. You have paper thin cheek armors, and you got like freaking a low damage penning gun. So another recipe why this needs to be a sniper only. And I'm only saying that because I see so many people brawl with it, and they wonder why they get killed by people with 3 tanks shooting at them right off the bat. Ugh. So, the next one, obviously engine. Now, this is where it fits into the category of if anyone plays the FCM 50 ton, which is a tier 8 French heavy tank, which is classified as should be a medium. This thing goes pretty fucking fast. Forward speed is like 68. You put some gasoline in this bad boy and do like other things, you could get this up to 70 almost, or 71. This thing goes zooming across the battlefield like a goddamn like race car on treads. Like, it is perfectly designed to be a relocator tank. So, reverse speed is only 20. So, you remember my old saying, if the reverse speed is shit, but your forward speed is good, always go forward, never retreat. Well, except for in the video clip I was done, I had to retreat because they were right in front of me. But if you have time to make sure if you can get out of there, always drive forward, don't like back up, because back up takes way too long, but forward can make you could turn around real quick and then just go forward and get the hell out of there faster than driving backwards. So horsepower is 1,100. Again, like paper thin kind of armor, like paper thin engine. Power to weight ratio is 22.37. Most tanks can push you around like a rag doll, so just be careful. Chance of setting on fire is 12%, which is pretty low if you really think about it. But I've seen these people get lit this thing on fire from the side, so even though frontally you probably have a good chance not getting set on fire, saying that meaning like just in case. I don't know how wargaming works with the fire, but in the rear end or the side, if you get penned there and you get caught on fire, it has a better chance because there's hardly nothing protecting it from taking the impact. So, that being said, so yeah. Now, I won't go over all of this because I already talked about the speed and the ratio. You can see all the stats there from all the tread servers, medium treads, and all that, showing like some areas will make it go faster, some areas will make it go softer, depending on the thing. But the one thing I've noticed, this thing has horrible clutch turning when you're driving on the move. When you're turning this thing, it's like driving a locomotive trying to go across the field. It's like really bad at turning. So if you're driving this on the move and turning, just be careful that it has a horrible thing. I would recommend clutch braking as a commander perk and some gasoline, but yeah, there's a lot of problem with it. So that being said, let's look at the single range. Now this is why you probably want to play with good people, because the single range is 1,142.11. Gotta love the Germans when it comes to communication. Sad though that they did not expect World of Tanks being their only downfall. Because let's just face it, a lot of people that spot for you usually die, and then you wonder why you're down with your pants down trying to find the target. That's why I had to fix the viewing range more than the single range. So, yeah. And I'm not saying that's the single range you're going to get. That's me with the commander with single range perks that made it that high. So, yeah. So now let's look at the ammunition costs. Like, this is where we're just going to talk about the ammunition cost of firing a single shell or a whole clip. So the first shot you fire is AP. We already went over the stats on paper, how far you shoot from 100 meters to 500 meters, and talked about the damage and stuff. But the cost of this shell is 1,115 a shot. Woo! Damn. That's a lot of credits for a standard shell, mind you. Standard shell. But as you can see on the price range, it is the cheapest one of all of them. And I'm scratching my head wondering, what? I don't know. So let's go down the list to the next one. So the next one is your premium round, which is heat. Now, heat has a penetration of 100 meters of 310, and then penetration of 500 meters, 310. This is at par heavily par with the Nemesis pen. So it's got a ridiculous penetration with heat. But anyone who knows heat, sometimes angle, spatial thing can absorb the shell. Sometimes heat can be a backfire on you. Depends. It goes across the battlefield fine, but it's not my ideal shell to snipe with because even though it keeps its penetrationable mark at a distance, it's got a horrible sometimes chance of pending long ranges. I don't know why. Jagdpanzer E100 is the best example because every time I use that for sniping and load premium, there's some shells that absorbs that shell sometimes. So your guess is good as mine. So, but the cost of one shell is 4,800. That is a lot of freaking money for a premium shell. So max speed on the ammo is 1,000, where the AP is 1,200. So they're pretty fast shells. That's a good thing about this, the 12-pounder gun. It actually is decent of speed, which I like. But let's take a look at the one that's why this a high explosive expensive. And I don't understand why, because if you look at the HE on this and you look at it closely, it's like 100 meters, 60, 500 meters, 60, damage, armor damage, 550, if you get pendant. But what tank has 60 millimeters of armor besides light tanks and arties? That's got to be the trick shot to fire off. I mean, yes, I am a veteran, and I will say this to anyone, that you could pack some of them with tanks that are sit still, and then you can't pen them, but they won't get out of the hole, so you can use high explosives to annoy the living hell out of them in little holes like that to get them out. But at that same time, you only carry 45 shots, so I would not recommend packing high explosives in this, even though it max speed's 100 and splash radius is pretty much 2.42. And the cost of the shell is 1,290. Why, Wargaming? Why is high explosive is more expensive than the AP? This makes no sense. The AP is you're going to be your primary thing to fire along with heat. Why is high explosive that has a penetration of 60 can't do shit? I don't know. So my advice, pack some of this, pack some of the AP. Try your best not to waste your shots because you will go negative a lot like I did sometimes. So, yeah. Well, that's it for that. And, well, let's get to the battlefield to talk about my personal opinion and my feelings of this tank. So, what do I think about this new Cannon Jagdpanzer? I'm going to be honest with you, it is one of the difficult tanks to play. Not because it's not playable. I have played many tanks in my day. I have played so many tanks that are the latter category as should be only fighting infantry kind of tanks. You know what I'm talking about, the tier 3 version. But this has made me struggle so much in this tank. It wants to be a goddamn heavy tank, but it can't. It's got too many weaknesses for a tank. And the armor, like I said, is mediocre. There's some games I can block shells with some AP, but then I see the tank again and then it pens right through me. So I can't even tell no more what is good or bad. And then when I ask people about it, they're like, say, well, angle the armor. But you can't because I just explained that armor is dog shit if they hit the side tracks of you. And this is, oh my god, this is one of those tanks that, like, for 6,000 gold, really, Wargaming? This is the tank you brought out. And granted, yes, like I said, there is some good. The reloading is fine. Some basic play style, if fastness is good, you want to have that fast speed to get out of situations like you're going to see in this gameplay footage. But the fact is how much hard it is to play it. It's literally labeled as the category of this tank as, like, needs fixing a lot. What do I mean by that? It's like those categories. It's like it's a tank that needs to be fixed. You need to have a 9 per crew. You need to have use all 4 equipment slot machine, like all the equipment slots that you need heavily on concealment, viewing range, reloading, ventilations to improve everything on your tank, etc. But there's not enough slots to fit all that. It isn't not a lot of slots. You have to like think, because most of my friends like, why don't you just try vertical stabilizers, reloading, and ventilations, Fury? Yeah, except for the fact without binoculars, I can't see that good. I could barely see a light tank. And the other people say like, well, why not just use camouflage, no reloading, and binoculars and so on for a sit back tank. I tried that as well, but the reloading on this gun needs that reloading equipment, because if you're spotted, God help you, it's like you're going to get slaughtered. The problem I have with this tank, it fits in the category of so many tanks that it makes me want to cry for many days ago. It is a support role only tank, and support role tanks really suffer because most people that play tanks nowadays, especially in Cold War, are mosh pit fighting. It's close range combat or mid range combat. I rarely don't ever see sniping, except only a few maps that I can name on one hand. I don't, like I said, I don't want to mention all of them because we're talking about the tank, but like one hand, like I can name like probably 5 maps that has sniping only capability people do. But that is far in between of the many 35 maps, or I don't know how many in total we have, 25, 20. I'm going to safely say 20 just to be safe because they added a couple of new ones recently. And it's such a pain in the butt to play these types of tanks. There's a reason why you don't see many light armor tanks anymore. Like, not often, unless it has a big caliber gun. Waffen trigger off the E100. I see them a couple of times, but usually people play them. They're in squads, and then if they're by themselves, they're going to get slaughtered. But I rarely don't see them on the battlefield. A lot of tanks with no armors, I don't see that much anymore. Why? Because really, at the end of the day, sniping is becoming a joke in this damn game. Like, there's so much problems. And I wouldn't bring up this topic instead of just talking about the tank here, but it is a big problem with this tank. This tank cannot take a lot of shell hits. Its sniping range, yes, like I said, perfectly fine if you're going against AP shooters at long distance. But, however, if the gun goes to 280 or 270, which most of the times tier 10s have, it would be penance. Honestly, in my opinion, I wish the love of God this was a tier, 9 premium tank. I'm not joking. If it was a tier 9 premium tank and you keep all the other things on it, maybe reduce the speed a little bit, down instead of going 68 and stuff like that, and you can get it down to I don't know, 30, not 30, I mean probably 49 to be fair. It could be a heavy armored German tank for once, and it actually will fit well in a tier 9 game than it does fit in a tier 10 game sometimes. And the gun is so low mediocre. Yes, I know everybody's going to say it's a 12 pounder. So it's not going to do a lot of damage, Fury. It's like the first gun design kind of way of Leopards or, the Leopard 2A things. They're like the early models of it. Of course, they're not going to do a lot of damage for beginning. But at the same time, though, I don't know what this tank is capable of. There's some games I'm I throw my hands in the air and say F it, and then I do well fucking going annihilating everybody if everybody's there. But then there's some games where I have to snipe only like you're seeing here, and I do poorly because, again, you have to rely on your team, but everybody knows as a veteran in World of Tanks, teams are not exactly the greatest to have sometimes, especially with reliability, because everybody's going to say, well, I don't trust my team, but this is a tank you have to, and it sucks because of how much problems this tank has. And the fact is that how Wargaming bring this out from my country, the Deutschland, and then brought out this shite of a tank, in my opinion, it I won't criticize my own thing for the review, but I'm just saying, in all, it's a tank that needs a lot of help. It needs a 9 per crew. It needs equipment. It needs all of this. It's so freaking stupid how Wargaming says, fuck it, we're all good. But just throw in a random thing that people are going to buy, and you know you bought it because people are already watching this to see how you play it effectively. I honestly don't know. I could tell one person is sniped with it and it does work for them, but then others go aggressive with it and it works for them. So I have no idea how effective it is. It's like it has armor, it doesn't have much concealment, and then it expects you to like play with it. It's like Wargaming just handed you a bunch of pieces of a gun and said, go make a gun out of this. It's like, but oh man. So my only advice is probably play it like a support role. Sit back, but also maintain different locations. Keep constantly moving, but keep constantly keeping that gun still. Type of tank. And for the love of God, if you're detected, act like an artillery run, because even though if you have armor, I would not risk it. So the game's almost done, so so what do I think about the kanjpz EGST, or as I like to call it, the kanjpz Heavy? This is going to be a tough one. Because on one hand, I know what you're all going to say in the comments below. Fury, it is the ultimate season pass. We're all going to end up getting this. So why are you doing this review? Well, a lot of people always ask me for help to see what the heck can you do with the tank. Can it be effective? Can it be salvaged from the amount of $30 that you paid or whatever taxes of these ultimate season pass you did? And honestly, oh, this is one of those tanks. Okay, to get a clear mind on how to rate it better, let's recap again. It has armor, but it has 240 millimeters with a slope armor of pretty much 240, but it's a little bit angled, so I would say 260 depending on AP rounds. But has horrible concealment range, has horrible aim time, in my opinion. Most people could fix that with vertical stabilizers, but that's another problem, is there's so much with this tank that it takes so much of the equipment slots to fix this damn Panzer. And the thing that's so shitey about it is, like, literally, it's got, like, all this potential to be something. They just put it in the wrong fucking tier. Like, if it was a tier 9, I would have so much fun with this tank. But no, it's a goddamn 10. With a lot of 10s have pens that can pen that much. Oh, God. And, like, to top it all that, it's got a fast reloading gun. So, it's got a lot of benefits. But it also has lots of negatives. This is one of those tanks, like I just keep saying, but it's so true for the many times I've been playing it, plus with people that I've met to try to play with this tank. It is one of those tanks that screams, help me, please use all 4 equipment slots to help me fix this. Please, I need an update. Please, I need this buffed, because this is ridiculous. I'm not asking for an overpowered tank, But if you're going to give me a tank in a tier 10 game that can only block certain APs off of very medium tank-like things and expect me to fight in the gameplay that you, wargaming, you say, that has variety in it, I call bullshit because you're playing with people that usually go aggressive with the tanks, and then you end up alone. Like I almost got my ass whooping that last gameplay you saw when my teammates were saving my rear end because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go out there and aggressively attack. I'll get obliterated like that one TD did. And I can't, like, sit forever because you guys will be bored to hell. That's why I don't like reviewing sit-still sniper tanks for videos like this, because I want you guys to see something, not me sitting there the entire time. Sorry, I'm just not trying to beat it around the bush. Even though it has a permanent skin with this thing, even if it boosts you 25%, I'm sorry. For me playing this, I would have to give it a 5.5 out of 10. The gun is amazing for all you're going to criticize me in the comments. The gun is amazing. Sometimes the armor works for some strange fucking reason. But in reality, it's got a lot of problems than benefits, in my opinion. Like, you need to fix the regular stabilizers. You need to have a 9 per crew. You need to have concealment down so you don't get shot to hell by high power 10 guns, which is a lot of them. And then you got to have, like, viewing range, because if you don't, you can't see that far with your viewing range. I know that the people are going to say, well, you don't need viewing range if you have people spotting for you. But name me how many times if that person spots from you survives. It's difficult to play this tank. And I'm sorry, I'm giving a 5.5. I don't care if it's a discount. I don't care if it has unique, beautiful skin. I think it needs a buff in one category. Please, Wargaming, at least make our aim times more better, so that way we won't have to suffer the aim time of it. Or make our armor better. Or make our speed so goddamn fast that we're basically light tanks, which they kind of do for 68, but I wanted to make it go slightly a little bit faster if you're going to give us hardly anything to work with. I know all of you are going to type in the comments saying, like, you could fix yours by using this equipment, use this combo, use all that, but the damage is done. Why would you want to waste time fixing a tank if your tank cannot, like, perform one duty average besides the reloading? Like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're fixing all this, but how is this for beginners that buy this Ultimate Season Pass? They're going to look at this tank and throw it in the fucking dumpster. But it does have potential. Gunpen is pretty good. The freaking reloading, good if you have the reloading equipment. It's okay, in my opinion. But it just feels like it should be a 9, not a 10. And that's all I gotta say. Thank you so much for everybody for watching. We're going to be doing the Halloween tanks pretty soon with hope to fucking dear God they're better than this tank, in my opinion. But until then, comrades, I will see you in the next tank review. Take care, guys. Boys.